Verbal Advantage was written and narrated by Charles Harrington Elster. Mr. Elster is a graduate of Yale University and an award-winning writer and broadcaster with a special interest in the English language. He is the author of a number of books on vocabulary building and pronunciation and has published dozens of articles on language, written features and reviews for newspapers and magazines, taught writing workshops, and been a commentator on language on more than 300 radio stations in the United States and Canada.
Welcome to Verbal Advantage, the finest vocabulary building program available today. By the time you finish listening to Verbal Advantage, you will have more than tripled your normal rate of learning vocabulary. And when you have mastered all the words in the program, your vocabulary level will be in the top 5% of all educated adults. And that's not all. You will also know how to avoid common errors of grammar, usage, and pronunciation. And you will possess the tools to continue building your verbal skills on your own for the rest of your life. My name is Charles Harrington Elster. For the next several hours, I will be your personal guide on a tour of the English language, a tour that I guarantee will help you improve your word power dramatically and permanently. Along the way, I will also coach you in how to use the language with greater clarity, precision, and style. I think you'll enjoy this tour because to benefit from it, all you have to do is listen. Before we begin, let me tell you a bit about myself. I am an author, journalist, and radio commentator who specializes in writing about the English language. Like most serious writers, I care deeply about words, where they came from, what they mean, how they are used and pronounced. In fact, I think it's fair to say that I am afflicted with a terminal passion for words. Allow me to explain how I contracted this most pleasant malady. For as long as I can remember, I have been in love with the beauty, rhythm, subtlety, and power of language, and from an early age I aspired to a career working with words. Like many writers, I acquired my affection for words from my parents. Both my father and mother are retired professional musicians, but they have always been avid readers with a fine ear for language as well as music. When I was young, they read me stories and poems at bedtime, and as I grew older, they encouraged me to read widely on my own. I often had lengthy discussions with them about books and language, and whenever we had a question or a dispute about a word, the hefty, unabridged dictionary in our living room was the final authority. The consequence of this verbally intensive upbringing was that two parents who loved language but made music for a living wound up with a son who loves music but makes his living with words. But that's enough about me, because this program is not about me, it's about you, and how you can achieve the verbal advantage. This program is about definitions, so let's begin by defining the phrase verbal advantage. What precisely is a verbal advantage? Does it suggest what successful people know about language? Does it refer to the words they use in conversation and writing? Yes, in part. However, in this program, verbal advantage encompasses something more than just what educated people already know about using the language. It also means what educated people ought to know about using the language, and how using it well can help them succeed. In short, a verbal advantage is the ability to use words in a precise and powerful manner to communicate clearly, correctly, and effectively in every situation, both on and off the job. In this program, I intend to take your ability with words and turn it into mastery. Numerous studies have shown that there is a correlation between career and financial success and a powerful, precise vocabulary, and that the level of success people achieve is linked to the number of words they command. You may be on the right track in your career, but are you as far along as you want to be? Are you as productive and successful as you know you can be? In the long run, all your hard work and all the knowledge you gain from experience may not produce the results you expect if you lack the confidence that comes from an accompanying mastery of language. As the syndicated columnist William Raspberry once put it, good English, well-spoken and well-written, will open more doors than a college degree. Bad English will slam doors you don't even know exist. In the next few hours, I will give you most of the linguistic tools you need to communicate more effectively and confidently, and I will show you how to use them with precision. If you like, consider this program an apprenticeship to a second profession, one that can help you immeasurably in your career and enhance your chances of success. When you're finished listening, you'll be on your own. But I think you'll find yourself prepared to meet that challenge, the challenge of achieving and maintaining the verbal advantage. Improving your verbal skills is not an easy task, but it doesn't have to be a chore. In fact, it can be one of the most rewarding activities you will ever undertake. In the realm of language, few things can equal the satisfaction that comes from using the precise word at the appropriate moment or realizing that the way you have chosen to express something has moved or gratified or persuaded your audience. Let's begin with a brief summary of what you will gain from listening to Verbal Advantage. First, you will learn about vocabulary building, why it is indispensable to your personal development and professional success. I will teach you the principles and techniques of building a large and exact vocabulary and introduce you to words that will add clarity to your writing and infuse your conversation with style. You will also discover how to put your powerful new vocabulary into action right away, and how to make the words you've learned serve you well for the rest of your life. Throughout the program, we will also explore the subject of usage versus abusage. In other words, how to use, not abuse, the language. You will learn how usage changes, why it changes, and why certain changes have been accepted and others have not. I will also cover some perplexing problems of usage that trouble even the best writers and speakers. Finally, I will address the issue of rules, good rules versus bad rules, and discuss how you can strike a balance between what current standard usage dictates and what seems natural and correct to you. Building a powerful vocabulary and learning how to use words properly is an essential part of achieving your career goals. However, that knowledge will be virtually useless if you do not develop your ability and confidence in a related subject, pronunciation. As the author of 2 books on commonly mispronounced words, I am keenly aware that there are many educated people who have invested a great deal of time and energy building impressive vocabularies, but who have not bothered to learn how to pronounce the words they have acquired. That deficiency leads to a twofold tragedy. First, to those who look up to the speaker as a more knowledgeable person, the mispronouncer does the disservice of passing along his or her mispronunciations. Second, to those who know something about words and how they should be pronounced, the mispronouncer, no matter how intelligent, will appear uneducated, even foolish. In short, if you have taken the time to learn the meaning of a word and how to use it properly, then why not also learn how to pronounce it correctly? In this program, not only will you learn the proper pronunciation of words that are new to you, you will also learn to avoid common mispronunciations of familiar words, ones you may be mispronouncing right now without realizing it. In addition, I will teach you some simple techniques that will help you continue to improve your speech on your own. Building your vocabulary is the primary goal of the Verbal Advantage program, and research has shown that the most effective way to build your word power rapidly and permanently is to learn words in their order of difficulty. Certain words are harder than others. Therefore, it stands to reason that you have to know the easier words before you can learn and retain the harder ones. When you know what reckless and rash mean, you're ready to learn the more difficult synonyms impulsive, imprudent, and impetuous. And when you have those words under your belt, then you can tackle the challenging synonyms precipitate and temerarious. The point is, you are far more likely to learn and remember words if you are exposed to them in ascending order of difficulty. That is why I have made Verbal Advantage a graduated vocabulary building program, which means the words get harder as you go along. Each level of Verbal Advantage focuses on specially selected keywords essential to educated professional discourse. But those words constitute only a fraction of what you'll learn from this program. Listen carefully to all the keyword discussions, and you will learn scores of useful related words and a plethora of challenging synonyms and antonyms. You will also discover where the words you are learning come from and how their history has influenced their current meaning. In addition to building your vocabulary, Verbal Advantage is designed to guide you in the subtleties of using the language properly and precisely. Each level contains what I call features and departments on commonly misused words, commonly confused words, and commonly mispronounced words. And throughout the program, I have also interspersed brief essays adapted from my radio series on language, A Word to the Wise. These entertaining exposés will help you avoid errors of grammar, diction, and pronunciation that vex even the most educated adults. They will show you how to eliminate redundancies, flabby, repetitive phrases, from your writing and speech, and help you heed the advice of Mark Twain, who said, "Use the right word and not its second cousin." Finally, the synonym studies in the keyword discussions will develop your ability to discriminate between words of similar meaning. Let's return now to the link between vocabulary and success. The theory that knowing more words can help you succeed is nothing new. Since the 1930s, researchers have documented the connection between a strong vocabulary and academic and professional success. Dean Tremblay, professor emeritus at California Polytechnic State University, supports the thesis that building your vocabulary enhances your chances of success. In his book Learning to Use Your Aptitudes, Tremblay states that a large vocabulary is more than knowing the difficult words. It is knowing the easier words more thoroughly and using them with greater precision. A powerful vocabulary gives you the facility to use the easier words more smoothly. As with grades in school, says Tremblay, money earnings are related to vocabulary. Within each occupation, those with larger vocabularies are more likely to profit. Put a $ in front of each additional word you learn. Perhaps the most influential researcher to explore the connection between vocabulary and success was the late Johnson O'Connor, founder of the Human Engineering Laboratory now called the Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation. O'Connor was a Harvard-educated engineer who devoted his life to identifying and measuring human aptitudes and studying their relationship to a knowledge of English vocabulary. After more than 20 years of testing thousands of Americans of all ages, occupations, and levels of education, O'Connor concluded that, and I quote, "An exact and extensive vocabulary is an important concomitant of success. Furthermore, such a vocabulary can be acquired. It increases as long as a person remains in school or college, but without conscious effort does not change materially thereafter." Margaret E. Broadley is an authority on Johnson O'Connor's work and the author of several books on human aptitudes. In Your Natural Gifts, she explains how, as far back as the 1930s, O'Connor's Human Engineering Laboratory discovered, as Broadley puts it, a close relationship between a large, precise knowledge of English words and achievement in life. Worldly success, earnings, and management status, writes Broadley, correlated with vocabulary scores. In follow-up studies of persons tested as much as 20 or 30 years ago, a limited vocabulary is proving an important factor in holding men and women back from achieving the position which their aptitudes showed they should have gained. Broadley continues, and I quote, "A low vocabulary is a serious handicap. Ambitious and energetic persons can push ahead in their jobs just so far, but then they reach a plateau caused by low vocabulary. They never advance. And while youthful zest and high aptitudes can enable us to forge ahead despite low vocabulary, when we become mature, the world expects us to know something, and we are judged on knowledge rather than our possibilities. The world doesn't see our aptitudes, but it pays for knowledge because that can be seen." Broadley then gets down to the nitty-gritty. There is a relationship, she says, between the length of time a man stays with a job and his aptitudes, the money he makes, and vocabulary. Laboratory studies show that at middle age, the low vocabulary persons are stuck in routine jobs. Furthermore, when big companies have their shakedowns and mergers, too often the low vocabulary persons find themselves out on the street. Too often they place the blame on prejudice, inside politics, and personal antagonism, when the truth can be traced to low vocabulary. Only about 3,500 words separate the high vocabulary person from the low, Broadley concludes. Yet these 3,500 words can mean the difference between success and failure. It is worth noting here that company presidents and upper-level business executives have consistently achieved the highest scores in the vocabulary tests administered by the Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation. As a group, executives score better than editors, writers, college professors, scientists, doctors, lawyers, psychologists, architects, and engineers, all high vocabulary occupations. The Foundation's researchers are not quite sure what to make of that finding, but they do know one thing. If you wish to succeed in your career, your vocabulary level must at least equal the average level of the members of your profession. If you wish to excel, your vocabulary must surpass that of your colleagues. As Johnson O'Connor said, words are the instruments of thought by which men and women grasp the thoughts of others and with which they do most of their thinking. To paraphrase O'Connor's assertion, words are the tools of thought, and it follows that if your tools aren't the sharpest ones in the shed, you can't realistically expect to have an edge in the struggle for success. There is one other point about vocabulary and success that I would like to clarify before we go any further. Researchers and language experts have known for many years that vocabulary is the key to success. But what does that really mean? It is true that various studies have shown that, particularly among business executives, English vocabulary level often correlates with salary level. However, there are many wealthy people who have low vocabularies and lack ability with language, just as there are many people who earn modest salaries but who have excellent vocabularies and a wide knowledge of the world. The point is, if your only ambition in life is to make wads of money, there are ways to do that without building your vocabulary. Therefore, it is important that you do not equate building a large vocabulary only with padding your bank balance and diversifying your stock portfolio. Vocabulary is the key to success, but wealth is not the only yardstick of success. What I am talking about is a definition of success that encompasses more than salaries and investments. What I am talking about is your career, what you do and how well you do it, and also your personal development, how you can make the most of your natural abilities and achieve your goals in life. That is where a powerful vocabulary can help you. That is where knowing the precise meanings of many words gives you an invaluable advantage, a verbal advantage. What it boils down to can be expressed in two words: career satisfaction. Building a powerful vocabulary can help you advance your career because as you improve your skill with language, you will become a better speaker, a better writer, a better reader, and a better listener. And if you are all of those things, then you probably will be a more successful person. And if your successful verbal skills also translate into promotions, a higher annual income, and an enhanced professional reputation, that's wonderful. Before we conclude this introduction and move on to Level 1, I'd like to take a moment to tell you how to get the most out of what this program has to offer. Although Verbal Advantage's audio format makes learning convenient and pleasant, I would be remiss in my duty as your instructor and guide if I neglected to underscore the fact that building your vocabulary takes time and dedication. True and lasting knowledge is not acquired overnight. That's why most of us spend the first quarter of our lives in school, presumably learning to be intelligent, productive members of society. Verbal Advantage will boost your vocabulary and enhance your verbal skills. But remember that your verbal development did not start with Verbal Advantage, and it should not end with it. Think of this program as the beginning of a lifelong process of self-education. Or, if you like, think of yourself as an athlete, an intellectual athlete, embarking on a challenging conditioning program for your mind. Verbal Advantage will give you the tools and show you how to use them, but it's up to you to decide what to build with those tools, and the responsibility for keeping them clean and sharp ultimately lies with you. Therefore, you will get the most out of this program if you follow the 3 R's of verbal development: routine, repetition, and review. Effective vocabulary building begins with establishing a routine and sticking to it. Listen to Verbal Advantage for a set amount of time every day, whatever fits conveniently into your current routine. If you commute to work, listen during your way in and review what you learned on the ride home. If you exercise regularly, listen while you walk or jog or ride a stationary bicycle. If you currently watch an hour or 2 of television each day, cut a half hour out of that time and devote it to something more productive, listening to Verbal Advantage. The point is, however you decide to work it into your schedule, you should make listening to this program a part of your daily routine. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect, and when it comes to building your vocabulary, repetition and review are essential if you wish to retain the words you learn. You will make best use of Verbal Advantage if you go over the material a second time before forging ahead. For example, if you listen to 10 or 20 keyword discussions on your way to work, go over them again on your way home. Then the next day you can listen to and review 10 or 20 new keyword discussions. I also recommend that when you finish each level in the program, you listen to the entire level again in 1 or 2 sessions, this time focusing your attention on the words and concepts you had trouble remembering when you went through the first time. Repeating each section of material before going on and listening to each level again will be your responsibility. However, for your convenience, I have also built regular review segments into the program to help reinforce your comprehension. After every 10 keyword discussions, there is a brief informal quiz and review session designed to immediately fix in your mind the words you've just learned. As you listen to these quizzes, try to keep track of how many correct and incorrect answers you make, and which words are most challenging for you. If you get several answers wrong the first time around, don't worry about it. Mistakes and missteps are a natural part of learning. However, if you're reviewing the material and you miss 3 or more answers in a quiz, you should go back and listen to all 10 keyword discussions again. One last thing to remember about using Verbal Advantage. Don't rush. Take your time. The Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation has found that when you engage in a conscientious study of vocabulary, your rate of improvement is related less to how fast you cover the material and more to how thoroughly you study the material step by step in order of difficulty. One word of caution. If you are the eager beaver type, you may be tempted to skip some of the early material and begin listening at a higher level of difficulty. That is your prerogative, but I do not recommend taking any shortcuts. In the long run, you will only shortchange yourself. Keep in mind that this is a graduated vocabulary building program designed to improve your knowledge of words step by step in the most effective way possible. Although you may already know some of the keywords in the early levels, right from the start, the vocabulary discussions cover many more difficult synonyms and related words. Also, throughout the program there is a great deal of additional information on language that anyone at any level will find useful. As the vocabulary building experts Maxwell Nurnberg and Morris Rosenblum once put it, you learn more words by learning more about words. And that's exactly what Verbal Advantage is designed to do. Build your vocabulary by teaching you a lot more about words than just their definitions. So again, I encourage you to listen to the program in order, listen for a set amount of time each day, and review what you've learned before moving on. By the time you finish, I think you'll agree that Verbal Advantage is a challenging program designed for people who are committed to improving their vocabularies and serious about translating their verbal skills into personal success. And now I hope that you are, as they say, all ears, because it's time to begin the journey toward a more powerful and precise command of the English language. Welcome to Level 1 of Verbal Advantage. Are you ready to learn the first 10 keywords? Here they are. Word 1, paraphrase. P-A-R-A-P-H-R-A-S-E. To restate, put what someone else has expressed into different words. The noun a paraphrase is a restatement of a text or passage to give the sense of the original in fuller terms. The verb to paraphrase means to restate something, giving the meaning in another form. To quote and to paraphrase are sharply distinguished. To quote is to use or repeat the words of someone else, giving acknowledgement to the source. To paraphrase is to restate in different words what someone else has said or written. Word 2, Ostensible. Ostensible. Apparent. Appearing or seeming to be true, professed or declared as true without being demonstrated or proved. More difficult synonyms of ostensible include plausible, plausible, and specious, specious. Specious, however, has the negative suggestion of using deception to make something false appear true. A specious argument is one that looks good on the surface but is flawed underneath. Ostensible is often used in opposition to real or actual. An ostensible motive is not necessarily a real motive. An ostensible advantage is not necessarily an actual advantage. Ostensible means apparent, stated as true but not necessarily proved. Word 3. Digress. Digress. To wander, stray from the point, ramble, deviate, go off in another direction. Digress comes from the Latin digressus, which comes in turn from the prefix dis, apart, and gradi, to go, walk, step. Digress means literally to go apart, walk away. From the same Latin source come ingress, the place you walk in, the entrance, and egress, the place you walk out, the exit. Digress once was used of a physical wandering or turning aside, but that sense is now archaic, which means old-fashioned. Today we do not say she turned right and digressed down Main Street. Instead, digress is used of speaking or writing that departs from the main point or subject at hand and wanders off in another direction. In a business report or an oral presentation, it's important to stick to the facts and not digress. If she hadn't digressed so much, her lecture would have been more interesting. Digress may also be pronounced digress. The corresponding noun is digression, digression. The old man's story was full of humorous digressions. Word 4. Uncanny. Uncanny. Eerie, strange, weird, mysterious. An uncanny experience. Uncanny may refer to something that is strange in an unnatural or unearthly way, something whose strangeness is unsettling or even frightening. Uncanny may also be used to mean beyond what is normal or expected, strange in a remarkable or marvelous way, as an uncanny resemblance or uncanny ability. Word 5. Candor. Candor. Frankness, openness, sincere expression. Synonyms include straightforwardness, outspokenness, forthrightness, and ingenuousness. Candor is the noun. The adjective is candid, frank, open, sincere. The candid person expresses his or her thoughts frankly and openly, with no hesitation. The forthright person speaks directly to the point, plainly and sometimes bluntly, in a no-nonsense manner. The ingenuous person speaks honestly and sincerely, with no hint of evasiveness or deception. Word 6. Morose. Morose. Gloomy, moody, glum, grumpy, ill-tempered, depressed. After weeks of futile job hunting, he became morose. More difficult synonyms of morose include dolorous, which means mournful, full of sadness; lugubrious, which means extremely gloomy or dismal; and saturnine, which means having a bitter disposition or sour outlook on life. Antonyms, words opposite in meaning, include optimistic, jovial, and sanguine, which means having a cheerful, confident outlook on life. Sullen and morose are close in meaning. When you refuse to speak or associate with people because you're in a bad mood, you are being sullen. When you are depressed and silent because you are feeling bitter or resentful, You are morose. Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 10th edition, says that morose suggests bitterness or misanthropy. Misanthropy is hatred of humankind, a spiteful or pessimistic attitude about the human race. Moroseness is ill-tempered, bitter gloominess. Word 7. Adept. A-D-E-P-T. Skilled. Synonyms include handy, clever, able, deft, expert, dexterous, proficient, and adroit. Adept comes from the Latin adeptus, an alchemist who has learned how to do the impossible, change base metals into gold. The noun an adept means a highly skilled person, an expert. The adjective adept means skilled, dexterous, proficient. He was adept at managing his investments, and they always turned a handsome profit. Word 8. Saturated. S-A-T-U-R-A-T-E-D. Soaked, thoroughly wet, full of moisture. Synonyms include drenched, steeped, permeated, impregnated, imbued, and sodden. Sodden, spelled S-O-D-D-E-N, may mean heavy with moisture, soggy, or dull, stupefied, expressionless, as from drinking too much liquor. To saturate means to soak or wet thoroughly, either literally, as in my French fries are saturated with oil, or figuratively. The company saturated the media with ads for its new product. Saturation is the corresponding noun. Word 9. Pragmatic. P-R-A-G-M-A-T-I-C. Practical, having to do with actual practice, concerned with everyday affairs as opposed to theory or speculation. Pragmatic comes from the Latin pragmaticus, which means skilled in business or law. The lawyer is concerned with evidence and proof. The business person is concerned with facts and figures. Both have little time for idle speculation or harebrained schemes. Both must be pragmatic, concerned with practical, everyday affairs. Word 10. Congenial. C-O-N-G-E-N-I-A-L. Sympathetic, agreeable, compatible, kindred, harmonious, having the same taste, nature, or temperament. Congenial persons have similar or sympathetic tastes, interests, or personalities. Congenial things agree, go well together. Antonyms or opposites of congenial are alien, dissident, and incongruous.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following questions. After each one, decide whether the correct answer is yes or no. When you paraphrase something, can you change the wording? Yes. To paraphrase is to put what someone else has expressed into different words. Is an ostensible reason always a true reason? No. Ostensible means apparent, appearing or seeming to be true, but not necessarily true. Would someone who speaks with candor be likely to digress? No. Someone who speaks with candor, frankness, openness, sincerity, would not be likely to digress, stray from the point, wander away from the subject. Would seeing a UFO or finding $1 million in the street be uncanny experiences? Yes, they certainly would. Uncanny means beyond what is normal or expected, strange in a remarkable or unsettling way. Can you describe a morose person as congenial? No. Morose and congenial suggest opposite moods. A person who is morose, gloomy, bitterly depressed, is not likely to be congenial, sympathetic, willing to agree or get along. Does an adept worker do a job well? Yes. Adept means skilled, handy, proficient. Would a pragmatic person be likely to make a business decision based on a hunch? No. Pragmatic means practical, based on practice rather than speculation. Can the market ever be saturated with competing products? Yes, it can. To saturate means to soak thoroughly, drench completely, permeate, either literally or figuratively. That concludes the review for this section.
Here are the next 10 keywords in Level 1. Word 11. Capricious. C-A-P-R-I-C-I-O-U-S. Unpredictable. Tending to change abruptly for no apparent or logical reason. Synonyms of capricious include flighty, changeable, impulsive, and fickle. More difficult synonyms include erratic, whimsical, volatile, and mercurial. A caprice is a sudden change of mind or change in the emotions. A person or a thing that is capricious is subject to caprices, to abrupt, unpredictable changes. He's so capricious, his mood changes with the wind. New England has a capricious climate. The stock market is notoriously capricious. Note the difference in pronunciation between capricious and caprice. Don't say capricious. Capricious should rhyme with delicious. Word 12. Blatant. B-L-A-T-A-N-T. Noisy. Disagreeably or offensively loud, boisterous, clamorous. The blatant sound of horns honking in heavy traffic. Blatant is also used to mean sticking out in a glaring way, obtrusive, flagrant, as in a blatant lie, a blatant error, a blatant attempt to impress the boss. In either sense, blatant suggests something conspicuous and disagreeable. Word 13. Obligatory. O-B-L-I-G-A-T-O-R-Y. Required, necessary, binding, mandatory. Obligatory duties are those you must perform to fulfill an obligation or responsibility. Doing miscellaneous paperwork is an obligatory function of the clerical worker. Word 14. Negligible. N-E-G-L-I-G-I-B-L-E. Unimportant, trifling, of little consequence. That which is negligible can be neglected. A negligible concern can be disregarded. It is so trivial and insignificant that it warrants little or no attention. Word 15. Adamant. A-D-A-M-A-N-T. Unyielding, immovable, inflexible, refusing to give in, unshakable, unrelenting, implacable. She was adamant in her opposition to the plan. The adjective adamant comes from the noun adamant, spelled the same way, which refers to a hard substance or stone, such as a diamond, that in ancient times was believed to be unbreakable. There is an old word, adamantine, still listed in current dictionaries but not often used. It means like adamant, very hard, unbreakable. The adjective adamant, which has replaced adamantine in current usage, means hard in the sense of inflexible, immovable, unyielding. Word 16. Sporadic. S-P-O-R-A-D-I-C. Occasional, infrequent, irregular, not constant, happening from time to time, occurring in a scattered or random way. A business venture may have sporadic success. A gambler's luck may be sporadic. Sporadic crimes are crimes scattered here and there throughout a city or neighborhood. Sporadic outbreaks of a disease in the population are occasional isolated outbreaks. Antonyms of sporadic include constant, incessant, and unremitting. Word 17. Vanguard. V-A-N-G-U-A-R-D. The forefront of an action or movement, leading position or persons in a movement. They were in the vanguard of the war on poverty. In its strict military sense, vanguard means the troops moving at the head of an army, the part of the army that goes ahead of the main body, an advance guard. Word 18. Concur. C-O-N-C-U-R. To agree, be in accord with, unite in opinion. Concur comes from the Latin con, together, and currere, to run, flow, and means literally to run or flow together, go along with. That derivation has led to three slightly different meanings of the word. First, concur may be used to mean to act together, combine in having an effect, as time and chance concurred in our success. Second, concur may be used to mean happen together, occur at the same time, coincide, as his pay raise concurred with his promotion. The third and most common meaning of concur is to agree, as your story concurs with theirs. We concurred on almost every point of negotiation. Word 19. Precociousness. P-R-E-C-O-C-I-O-U-S-N-E-S-S. Early development or maturity, especially in mental ability. The noun precociousness and the adjective precocious come from the Latin praecox, which means premature, or literally, ripening before its time. Precocious is most often used of children whose intellectual or emotional development is unusually advanced. Precociousness, early development, is the opposite of retardation, slowness in development. Word 20. Aloof. A-L-O-O-F. Apart, at a distance, removed, withdrawn, not wishing to speak or associate with others. The aloof person is emotionally reserved and keeps a cool distance from others. Aloofness means reluctance to get involved or take an interest in something. Synonyms of aloof include unsympathetic, unapproachable, standoffish, and indifferent.
Let's review the 10 words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following statements and decide whether each one is true or false. The capricious person is always predictable. False. Capricious means fickle, inconstant, changeable. A blatant attempt is quiet and inconspicuous. False. Blatant means unpleasantly noisy and conspicuous. When attendance at a company function is obligatory, that means you have to go whether you want to or not. True. Obligatory means required, necessary, mandatory. Something negligible can be disregarded. True. Negligible means unimportant, of little consequence. An adamant person refuses to compromise. True. Adamant means inflexible, unyielding, unwilling to give in. Something sporadic occurs at regular intervals. False. Sporadic means occasional, irregular, happening every now and then. If you take the lead on an important project, you are in the vanguard. True. The vanguard is the forefront of an action or movement, the leading position. When two people concur, They argue or disagree. False. To concur is to agree, be in accord. Precociousness in a child may be a sign of above-average intelligence. True. Precociousness means early development or maturity, especially in mental ability. An aloof person is unwilling to associate with others. True. Aloof means apart, at a distance, emotionally reserved